which is a team that's kind of paralleled to the Bears. A team I've been, I don't know if hot on is the right word, but I've spent a good amount of time talking about, and a team I followed a lot this year. That is the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young, which is maybe where we'll start, and we'll talk about our expectations there. My personal expectations of the Panthers were somewhat similar to what's happening now. I didn't expect them to start the year so bad and expect them to have to bench Bryce. But then Bryce came back and he played really well, and the team started having close games. And then they had about 3 games in a row. It was Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Eagles. 3 games that were lost within the final minute of the game, which most people wouldn't have assumed that, especially those 3 teams right there I just mentioned, Bucs, Chiefs, and Eagles, that was ever going to be close with the Panthers. Those 3 games were a couple plays away within the last minute from them winning it. So a lot of people are going to say the only thing that matters is wins and losses. They lost those games. How can you say there's improvement? Look at the Panthers last season. Watch all their losses, which I was going to say all their games, but watch all their losses and all their games is basically the same thing from last season. And then watch the 3 games that the Panthers had against the Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Eagles and tell me that's not improvement. It's an absolutely ridiculous statement to make, is to say that, I get winning matters. I know it does. But you're an idiot if you think that there's absolutely no difference between 0-3 in this stretch and some other 0-3 in last year's stretch of games. So regardless of them having losses, they've improved a lot. One of the things that I think contributed to that is Coach Dave Canales, who I was really high on. I sometimes I base opinions on coaches and stuff by watching their press conferences. Not entirely, obviously, but it's one of those things that, like, I grew a little bit of an attachment to Dave Canales, and it was just one of my guys. And watching him in press conferences led me to really root for him, and I still do. I'm not about to take this back or anything. But you just listen to him talk. He's a very confident guy, and he's very well spoken, and he just seems like he knows what he's doing. So looking at that and how this team is played, I think it's obvious that he's a big reason for the improvement that the Panthers have had. And he's a big reason for the improvement that Bryce Young has had. And so many people wanted them to just forget about Bryce Young, trade him away. He was a bust. Should have taken CJ Stroud. Sure, maybe they should have taken CJ Stroud or whatever. But what we were able to see this season, even in losses, what we've seen from Bryce Young over the last few weeks, minus the most recent game with the Cowboys, what we've seen from him proves that they didn't totally F this up majorly. He played really well in those 3 games this season with the Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Eagles, and especially that last drive against the Eagles, trying to put it away, breaking tackles, slipping out of the pocket, making throws downfield. That looked like a number 1 overall pick. That looked like a number 1 overall pick right there. That looked like the guy that they thought they were taking. So you can tell me about the wins and losses and how, winning is what matters, and losing, it doesn't matter how you lose, it doesn't matter. You can tell me that all you want. The assurance that they've gotten from seeing that Bryce Young still has those things in him and can do it in this level, in this professional level of football, is earth-shattering for them. Earth-shattering in a positive way. I guess I shouldn't have used the phrase earth-shattering. It's groundbreaking is probably a better thing to say. So that was huge for them. That's where I'll start with the Panthers. On to the other side of the ball, and I'll get back to the offense in a little bit, the defense. This is the worst rostered defense in the NFL, in the league. Just in terms of the actual players that they have. It's funny to look at the Panthers depth chart and look at their defense. It's like Madden generated players and names. Like, it's guys you've just never heard of. And then you look at their history, it's like they legit are coming from the XFL. And there's so many guys like that. And for a team that has that roster, that had Derek Brown suffer from a season-ending injury, it's clear that one of the main issues with this team is the defense. Now, again, I said I'm a big fan of Dave Canales. Despite those issues on the defense, despite the poor roster talent on defense and the rest of the team on offense, because it's not all solid there too, they've kept a lot of games really close, and they've had a lot of really good moments. So that's how I feel about that. And I did mention the Derek Brown injury. That was heartbreaking for them. You got to keep in mind, he'll be back next season. Hopefully, he's still Derek Brown, but you never know. And then moving back to the offense, this offense does have a lot of nice pieces. I mean, if we're talking about Chuba Hubbard, who's completely broken out, got a big contract, earned it, made total sense to me because I think he's kind of one of those guys that you give a contract to show like, hey, if you can be a part of this culture that we want to bring, if you can establish what we're trying to establish, not just in terms of how you play, but also your mentality and who you are as a player, we're going to pay you. And that was a big deal for them this season, is getting Chuba Hubbard a big contract, which they did. So he's been a really nice piece. Xavier Legette has been fine. He's had some disappointing moments for sure, especially in that Eagles game with the drop to not necessarily put it away, but to go up, 5 points or something like that with 40-something seconds left on the board against the Eagles. That was a disappointing moment, but you still lean on him going into the future. You still want him to be your guy, so that's still a player to be thinking about. And then Jalen Coker has been great also. Another guy that came out of nowhere that, I was aware of and was hoping he'd get a shot somewhere, and it happened to be the Panthers, and he's done a lot of good stuff in that time frame. Adam Thielen still playing at a high level despite his age. He's another good culture guy for this team. I mentioned Deontay Johnson earlier, who only played like the first 3 weeks before he was traded, but I think one of the reasons he was traded is because he didn't match that culture. He didn't match what they're trying to bring. And sometimes you got to do stuff like that. You got to get rid of a player that you know is talented and really good at a position of need because they don't match what you're trying to do, and it's just not going to work. And you're paying them all that money to basically be equivalent to a Jalen Coker. So everything isn't Madden where everyone's just at the same overall or whatever constantly. It's different. It's not a video game. The other thing on offense, there's two other things actually on offense that I think have been good this season and that you can look forward to. Jatavion Sanders, tight end, unfortunately suffered a pretty rough injury around his neck this year, falling on his neck. It doesn't look like it's going to ruin his NFL career. I think he should be back by next season. I don't know if he's going to be back this season. There's only like 3 games left, but he played really good football for a few weeks there. So I think that's something someone they're going to want to lean on and look forward to. And then also this offensive line has been good. Like, not just serviceable, it's been good. So this team has a lot to look forward to, for sure. Things that they need to focus on. Look, although losing has been tough, they're getting an early pick. So they're getting an early pick. They have their pieces. They got to see that Bryce Young can work in this league. I think this season is going to end up feeling like a success for them. Just don't get rid of Dave Canales because you're scared. Keep him on the team. He's clearly making this team a lot better. And then use one of that early pick that they're probably going to have. It'll probably be a top 8 pick, top 10 pick. Get someone on defense. Cornerback, edge rusher, D-line, whoever you want. It literally any, except for like a linebacker, just because that's not as valuable, but any main position on defense that you're able to get, just take them, because this defense has issues across the board. If you want to get a corner to match up with J.C. Horn, that's fine with me. Get an edge rusher, that's fine. Get another defensive tackle, that's great. Match him with Derek Brown. So that's really what the Panthers need to do, is just anything on defense. And then obviously getting some more receiving help would be great. Maybe bringing in another vet that maybe isn't as old and doesn't lack as much of a future as Adam Thielen, but is also a little bit more established and fits this culture better than Deontay Johnson, and is also older than Xavier Legette. Someone like that would be great. Stick in this receiving room as well. So, yeah. And then the other thing is stick with Bryce. I think he's proved that, despite the loss against the Cowboys, I think he's proved that shipping him off for a 6th-round pick is not going to really get you anywhere. And he can win some games next season if we get a better team established and if we let this culture build up.